Right now, what we're going to do is we're going to get you now to Crazy Jets Fan. Crazy Jets Fan, the Jets actually won last week. They beat the Seahawks 16-10 up in the Kingdom. I actually fell asleep during that game, and when I woke up, it was over, and I couldn't believe what had happened. But the Jets at the Rams this week, and let's go to Crazy Jets Fan right now. Crazy Jets Fan!
Hey everybody, how's it going? It's Crazy Jet Fan here via telephone, calling from a nice warm hospital bed, because I got a little bit too crazy when the Jets got a victory over Seattle last week, baby. That's right. Jets looking, I don't want to say they look good. You could say it was more of a collapse of the Seattle Seahawks there, but Jets did what they had to do. Adrian Morrell had a big game, rushing for over 100 yards, a couple of big receptions, and a lot of turnovers, but you know, Seattle had turnovers in their first 3 possessions, but the Jets only capitalized on one of them. It's a real problem, but it was enough this time, and defense, again, held up strong. Thank God, because in the second half, you know, the offense didn't do too much. But we got a victory, and a couple of people upset because, you know, now we're tied with Washington and Jacksonville for the worst record, so it might hurt our draft pick, but we don't have a good history in the draft anyway, so, you know. But next week, we got St. Louis, the Rams, who got blown out by San Francisco and Steve Young's return. I think St. Louis is pretty hungry. I think they really want to make the playoffs, and they still got a chance, and the Jets, to them, seems like a quick victory to get them back on track. The Jets, though, the Jets want to win, too. I don't think they're going to be throwing games or anything like that. So I'm going to stick with the Jets this week by a field goal. It's going to be a close one. So look for St. Louis to play a good game. And I should be recovered. I should be back in the studio next week. So till then, see you next week. And go Jets!
Well, that's Crazy Jets Fan with his take on the Jets. The Jets really hurt themselves last week by winning, because now they throw themselves into a 4-way tie for the #1 pick in the NFL Draft next April with the Jaguars, Redskins, and Giants. A loss would have helped secure that #1 pick, but the Jets are going to waste anyway. But, you know, hey, that's Jets history. Maybe they'll turn it around this year. I'm done bashing on Jet fans. That's right. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to go that way. Jets are all right. They got a great future. But anyway, let's get back to Week 14. Houston's at Pittsburgh this week. The Steelers suddenly are now the #2 seed in the AFC. A few weeks ago, they were 3-4. They're riding a big 5-game win streak, and who knows if they get Rod Woodson back for the playoffs. I think that team's dangerous. They're my new AFC pick for the Super Bowl. I think I'll stick with them for the rest of the year. What do you think of the Steelers?
Well, the Steelers, they're obviously the tops in their division, but as far as the AFC goes, they're still not up there.
Really?
No.
You really think the Chiefs and Raiders are that far superior than the Steelers? And you're talking about a conference that hasn't come close in a Super Bowl. It's come close in the Super Bowl twice in the last 11 years. I mean, I can't even remember 1983. Last time the AFC won the Super Bowl. I mean, you know, it's really just a bunch of pretty good teams. I mean, are the Chiefs and Raiders really that much better than the Steelers?
I really don't think the Steelers are worthy of their record.
Really?
Who have they played that's been any challenge?
Well, that's true. They are in the AFC Central. Has been pretty weak this year, and they really haven't scored some big wins against some big teams. We gotta love Cordell Stewart. He's one of the more exciting players in the NFL. He can throw, he can run. Pretty exciting, and he stuck it to the Browns 2 games this year already. So I'd look out for him, and I'd look out for the Steelers, baby, because even though Chiefs are going to have home field throughout the playoffs, something about those Chiefs, Cowboys exposed them on Thanksgiving. So we'll just have to see what happens there. Now, moving on, Indianapolis at Carolina, 2 surprising teams in their own right. The Colts looking like they're heading for a playoff berth, and if they would have just beat the Bills one of those games, they'd be in first place right now. Carolina, meanwhile, they're at 5-7. They're 1 win away from breaking the record for most wins by an expansion team in one season. Actually, they already have that already, I think. 6. I'm not sure about that, actually. Do you know about the expansion teams?
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure. I think they already do have the record. Well, I don't know. Maybe that's the highest winning percentage or something.
Yeah, I think the record for most wins was 3.
Yeah, it was 3. Yeah, but I think if they get to 6, they have like the highest winning percentage of an expansion team. Well, anyway, if they had beat the Saints last week, they'd have been in a playoff hunt. How interesting would that have been? But I like the Colts in this game. The Colts really got an easy schedule down the stretch. They got the Panthers, the Jaguars. I think they got to play the Patriots again, too, and somebody else in there. But if they can run the table, they'll have a really good record, and they'll have a good chance, maybe even a home playoff game. And who knows, if the Bills falter, they may even sneak in and win the AFC East. What do you think of the Colts' chances, though, in the rest of the season and into the playoffs?
As far as taking the AFC East, I really don't think so. But they're definitely in the playoffs, I think, and they probably won't do anything once they get there. They're the Colts.
You just don't have any hope for the AFC. There's such a negative attitude toward the AFC. What's going on here?
No, the Raiders and the Chiefs are good teams, but the rest of the AFC is a joke.
You really think so? Wow, I'm sorry you're so bitter. Well, I would be too if I was an AFC fan. After 12 years, no Super Bowls, get romped every year. Speaking of the Oakland Raiders, the big matchup, baby. Kansas City at Oakland. Rematch of the game that the Raiders lost in overtime. They actually should have won, maybe. That referee getting in the way there of Tim Brown maybe cost them the game. James Hasty returning interception for a touchdown in overtime. That game had to kill you because that was the only loss the Raiders had until they went to Dallas. Dallas beat them. That was their second loss. Yeah. No, wait. Who else beat them?
Denver.
Oh, that's right. The Broncos gave the Raiders their second loss. But the Raiders, if they would have won last week, would have had a shot at the AFC West with a win here. But a win this week only puts them one game back with 3 to go. And Kansas City will still win the tiebreaker with the Raiders because they should end up with a better division record. Of course, the Chiefs lose all 3 of their games, which is not all that impossible. But what do you think of this game here in Oakland? I mean, the Chiefs have owned the Raiders in the last 5-6 years. What's going on here?
Well, the Raiders, for some reason, always have problems with the Chiefs. It's just been tradition, but I look for them to break the tradition this year. With healthy Hostetler back, they're going to be playing for pride, and I think they're going to win. It's in Oakland.
It's in
Home
Oakland.
field.
Yeah, the Chiefs return to Oakland for the first time in 14 years of that storied AFL rivalry. Really the only real AFL rivalry that ever existed. And, when you think of rivalries, the AFC, other than Chiefs-Raiders and maybe Raiders-Steelers in the 70s, I mean, really hasn't been that big rivalries of anything, proportions where, the winner goes to the Super Bowl. I mean, the NFC, the Cowboys got, at least 3 rivalries I can think of off the top of my head with the Niners, Redskins, and Eagles. And, it's just, the AFC's always been inferior, in my opinion. Even during the merger. Before the merger, the AFL didn't get any respect. Then the Jets snuck in a Super Bowl win with the Chiefs. But even then, the AFC really hasn't done much other than that. I mean, people say the Steelers won 4 Super Bowls. People forget the Steelers used to be an NFL team back in the day. They're not a true AFL-AFC team, and they're responsible for 4 Super Bowl wins for the AFC. But I'm getting on a tangent here. I mean, we all know the AFC's weak. The Raiders, man, I say they'll beat the Chiefs this week. It's about time the Raiders break that string there. But who do you like in the Super Bowl from the AFC? You really think the Raiders can do it?
I think Oakland has a very good chance.
Why do you say that?
Well, Pittsburgh's a joke.
Pittsburgh's a
Buffalo.
joke. Man, Pittsburgh's a joke. Pittsburgh's pretty decent there. Cordell Stewart to go burn your cornerback there. You didn't look too hot last night. I don't even know who's on the Raiders these days, I tell you.
There's no way they would stop the Oakland offense.
You think so?
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Well, let's look at it this way. If the playoffs started today, they would host the Colts in the first round. Let's assume they win that game. They handled the Colts pretty easily. Then I think they would probably go to Pittsburgh. Oakland at Pittsburgh. All right, you know what? We'll even give them that win because the Steelers didn't do much with home field advantage 2 of the last 3 years. And then you're looking at an AFC title game on the road at Kansas City. Yeah, and can the Raiders win in Kansas City in January?
I think they can.
Or will he even be at Kansas City? It all depends. See how it folds out. But the Raiders do have a good chance to go to the AFC title game, and then who knows what can happen from there. You all saw what happened with the Chargers last year. Let's get back to Week 14 and some other games here. I'm looking on my sheet. I see the Saints are at the Patriots this week. Both these teams are 5-7. Both these teams need to run the table to get in the playoffs. Both these teams are disappointing. Why don't we move on? Jacksonville's at Denver this week. The Broncos, they're at 6-6. At this point, would lose the tiebreaker for the last wild card spot. They pretty much better win the rest of their games if they're going to get in the playoffs. I mean, this could be John Elway's last chance, really, to have anything substantial. But teams like John Elway's Broncos, Dan Marino's Dolphins, these guys are never going to win the Super Bowl. I mean, do you see it happening ever?
No.
No? You want to elaborate a little bit, maybe? Come on.
I don't know. Elway's a good quarterback, but he's getting old, and he really doesn't have any supporting cast.
That's true. But the Broncos, they could back into the playoffs and maybe make things interesting because as long as that game's close in the fourth quarter, John Elway's got a chance of bringing them back. What we're going to do right now is give you a TV schedule for Week 14. The Giants in Arizona got a game Thursday night on ESPN. By the time a lot of you see this, you will have already known the score. But we're going to list it for you anyway, along with the other games on TV this week for Week 14. Okay, we're back here, and I want to clarify something for our viewers out there. People have been asking me what happened to Professor Winston Periwinkle, who was working on a documentary for BTV down here on football. Well, Winston's been a little busy these few weeks, and we probably won't see him for the rest of the semester. He might come down here and sneak another clip in here, but I doubt it at this point. But he should be back for the Super Bowl show to kick off next semester, and won't that be very exciting?